Let's talk NC State. NC State is 2/3 of the way through a gauntlet that I laid down for NC State men's basketball. There was a not long ago, 2 games ago, going into the beginning of this homestand, starting with Miami. I looked at NC State and I said, you have to win 3 games to re-ante up. Right, the way we described it is they went busto at the poker table. They had to make the long, embarrassing walk over to the ATM, get some cash, come back over and buy in. And that walk and that ATM trip were the 3 home games, right? They played Miami, they played Georgia Tech, and now on Wednesday they play Pitt, all at home. If you win those 3, you're back at the table. If you win those 3, you are back at the table. That's not to say you're up. That's not to say you're winning. That's not to say you got big chip stacks and you can start bullying people. It's just to say you're back in the game. They're 2/3 of the way through. They beat Miami and they beat Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech coming off a big win over UNC, so they were riding high. Here's the head coach of NC State, Kevin Keatts, on what ignited the team's burst of energy to get that win against Georgia Tech.
Well, I thought it was the defensive end. We got stingy, and we started, sitting down and we started guarding. We got some turnovers. We were able to get into our press, and once we got into our press, I thought it affected the game. At halftime, we talked about it. They were going more one-on-one than anything. And at the end of the day, I think that at the first half they had 2 assists, and we felt like we just didn't guard well enough. And so once we decided to guard, I think things opened up for us.
I think I know what the difference has been, and it's a statistical change. I have numbers to point to. I like to back things up with facts. I think I know what the biggest change was for NC State from their 3-game losing streak, Virginia Tech, that little run, and the 2 wins. And I'll tell you in a second. But first, let's look at this win specifically. It was a very NC State win, and what I mean by that is they shot 29% from 3. This year, they've found a way a lot of times to win despite not shooting it great from 3 because they do one thing very, very, very well. And this has been happening from the beginning of the year, and they speed wobbled a little bit, right? It got off track, but this is their game. They protected the darn basketball.
Yep.
They turned the ball over just 4 times, forced 12 turnovers. That's how you're able to shoot less from 3. That's how you're able to not be the most efficient offense, but you're getting extra possessions by forcing turnovers, and you're not giving the other team possessions by turning it over yourself. They shot better from the free throw line. They got to the free throw line more often. They made a higher percentage once they got there. That's another way you make up points in the margins. That's what NC State was able to do early in the year when they were stealing wins. They did it again this year. And this year, I meant this game, not this year.
Been doing it throughout the year.
It was a very NC State win, and now the pressure is greatly ratcheted up on Wednesday against Pitt to complete the re-up, right? You've gotten this close. I have to stick by what I said, which is you have to win all 3 to get me back on your side a little bit, so you're almost there. And I think that's true for the committees. I think that's true for the rankers. They're not even also receiving votes in the top 25, but they are back in the top 4 of the ACC standings. So they're climbing, but to get me fully on board, to get me arguing for you, you better beat Pitt on Wednesday. Then you go on the road to Wake, and I'll give you kind of that fresher slate. Then the Wake game matters. All right, you ready to tell me what I think the biggest difference is?
Let me hear it.
Trust. But not just trust in everybody, okay? It's Kevin Keatts trusting 4 specific players. It's Michael O'Connell.
Okay.
It's Jaden Taylor. And it's the 2 obvious. DJ Horne and Casey Morsell. Kevin Keatts has basically said, if we're going down, I'm going down with those 4 guys. And they've responded. Those 4 guys. Notice it's not DJ Burns. As much as I like Mo Diarra, it's not Mo Diarra. As much as some like the energy that Ben Middlebrooks brings, it's not Ben Middlebrooks. It's the trust of Michael O'Connell, Jaden Taylor, DJ Horne, and Casey Morsell. All 4 of them in the 2 wins. Since we started this, you must win games. All 4 of them have logged at least 32 minutes in each of those 2 games. In the previous 3 games, those bad losses, NC State in none of those 3 games had more than 2 players with over 32 minutes. So they've had twice as many people playing big minutes. We've talked about it. It's shortening your rotation. It's letting guys play through cold streaks. Right? In the first win over Miami, it was Michael O'Connell. Had a couple turnovers early. You left him in there. You let him play big minutes. He came around to lead your team in assists, make some big plays down the stretch. In this one, I think it was Casey Morsell. Casey Morsell went 1 for 7 from 3. Last year, one of the best things he brought to your team was 3-point shooting. You didn't look at him and say, oh, it's cold night. It happens, Casey. Let's get Dennis Parker Jr. in there a bunch. You didn't say, oh, it's a cold night. Let's run 2 bigs out there and play it that way. No, you said find another way to affect the game, and he did. In the 3 bad losses, they were trying to be deep, right? Only our 2 best are going to play 32 or more minutes. Heck, for the most part, only your 2 best played more than 30 minutes. In this little 2-game winning streak, this must-win winning section, they said, these 4 guys, you're only going to come off the floor when you need to come off the floor. You're only come off the floor when you're exhausted or in foul trouble. That 5th spot, it'll be a rotation. It'll be Burns, it'll be Diarra, it'll be Middlebrooks. But other than that, it's these 4 guys. That's everything.
The other thing that's also impressed me in these previous 2 wins is that they've found good ways to close out games. Mm-hmm. When the other team has tried to deliver a punch to get back in it, NC State ultimately has delivered the knockout punch, whether it's putting together one last run or making free throws.
But think and yes, that is a great point. And matter of fact, let's hear from Kevin Keats on closing out the game versus Georgia Tech. Here's a soundbite for you from the postgame.
I thought we closed out great with our free throws. Casey Morsell, and I told him, we handed him a 1,000-point ball. He screwed our best, lowest turnover of the year with that walk on the baseline.
Yeah, but he made up for it with a home run pass at the end of the game.
You don't make up for those things.
Oh, okay.
You don't make up for those. And, no, I'm teasing with you. I thought we played well. We took care of the basketball. Like, you know, you go through an entire game and would have had 3 and 4 turnovers. I thought it was good. I thought we had a couple, breakdowns where we came off 3-point shooters when all they needed were 3-point shots to try to get back in the game.
I think how you close, and what Graham said is true, and what Kevin Keats just said is true. I think how you close is a product of those guys playing those bigger minutes, right? As long as they're in shape enough, as long as they aren't fatigued, they're the ones that are in rhythm, right? They're the ones that make the smart plays or, right, you heard him joke about the travel down there. You can't make up for it, but guess what? When you're in the rhythm of a game, one mistake isn't going to crush your mentals, right? You're going to be able to bounce back because you've made mistakes earlier in the game and you didn't get put on the bench right away. You made mistakes early in the game and you were able to play through them and you came out on the other side. It was who was I? Oh, it was Mario Chalmers. I was listening to Mario Chalmers, who many remember from Kansas and obviously his time with the Miami Heat, national champion, NBA champion. He talked about with the Heat, it used to be a one mistake and you're out for everybody that wasn't LeBron, Wade, and Bosh. That's a terrible way to play, right? That's a terrible way to play. And then if you add in I made a mistake in the biggest moments, but I'm still confident I'm going to get a chance to make up for it, that's huge. It's trust. It's trust, it's trust, it's trust. And it goes back to what we were talking about all year. You can go back and listen to the cons and cons, right, when we do concerns and confidence here on the show, when we talk about NC State. The rotation has been one of our concerns all year. And it's not because, it's bad to have 10 guys that you can play, 9 guys that you can play. It's because game in and game out, it didn't seem like they knew what their roles were going to be. Cam Woods would play 16 minutes and 10 minutes, no minutes the next week. Right? That when you don't know what your rotation is going to be, you don't know what your role is going to be, it's hard to ever get into a rhythm. You don't know if I better make my first 3 shots or else I'm going to get benched. It's empowering to know you can make a mistake. It's empowering for O'Connell to know he should be aggressive and try to make a great pass, knowing that if it goes poorly, he's going to be able to make 5 great passes later in the game. It's empowering for Jaden Taylor to drive towards the bucket and throw one up crazy, right? Knowing they want him to be aggressive. And if he ends up on his back, to stay focused, stay locked in, make a circus catch, and make the crazy pass.
Da-da-da, da-da-da.
Which ended up being the #1 play on SportsCenter.
Shout out to NC State for still finding a way to be relevant the day that North Carolina and Duke played.
#1. They weren't #2. Not on SportsCenter top 10. DJ Horn, Casey Morsell, you can miss shots even though you're the guys they depend on to make shots. And it won't be the end of the world. Trust. Trust from coach to player is huge. And that's every sport. Trust from coach to player is huge. If you're a baseball manager and you're looking at a guy struggling on the mound and you go, no, I'm not taking you out. I'm going to trust you to get out of this jam. That pays dividends down the road when they get in high-pressure situations. Quarterback throws an interception. You put him back out there. Pick 6, right? So it goes back and you get the ball in the very next play right after the kickoff. Put him out there. What do? Throw a pass, right? Just show trust. I'd be very surprised if on Wednesday against Pitt, as long as they're not hurt, not in foul trouble, and not fatigued, if those 4 guys, O'Connell, Taylor, Horn, and Morsell, don't play 35 minutes. They should, because that's been the difference.